That's me. How come I'm dressed like Superwoman? I'll get to that later. I made breakfast!
You know you're my hero, right, Mom?
Thank you, honey. Eat your pancake.
It's still frozen.
Well, lick it, it'll last longer. I have 3 kids. Brick, Axel.
Whatever. That's it! Go to your room. No, wait, you like your room. Go to Sue's room.
And Sue. And I love them all to death. We are a family, and we are going to eat together as a family.
This is Dancing with the Stars.
I have a husband who always knows the right thing to say. Mike, look at this. It's been 7 years since I've had my driver's license picture taken, right? Look at this. What happened to me?
Well, back then, you're all young and shiny and wondering what your life was going to be. And now, well, now you know.
I'm not sure exactly where my life took this turn. I made dinner! The only thing I know for sure is that it's my life, I love it, and I wouldn't change a thing. Okay, maybe I'd change a few things. Oh yeah, and about that Superwoman costume?
Mom, I'm doing a book report on Superwoman. You have to come dressed like her Monday.
Rick, you gotta tell me these things earlier.
Whatever!
Anybody call for Superwoman?
Oh, that's next Monday.
Being a mother is wonderful, especially when everything's working out okay. For instance, when the kids are little and you got a lot of them and you go 6 weeks and nobody gets sick, well, that's really good. And then when those same kids get a little bit older and they get their learner's permit and their driver's license, and even worse, they're out riding around with their friends who've just gotten their learner's permit and their driver's license, well, when they get in at night, that last one, and you lock the door, and they're all in their beds, well, that's even better, isn't it? And then, when those same kids become young adults, and they launch well, that's priceless. So, let's take another look at that video.
Mike, look at this. It's been 7 years since I've had my driver's license picture taken, right? Look at this. What happened to me?
Well, back then, you're all young and shiny and wondering what your life was going to be. And now, well, now you know.
Well, that was funny the first time and actually funnier the second time. Last week, Brother Bill introduced the Book of Lamentations to us, and he said it was like a photo album with some disturbing images. And that's exactly where we are today, still in the first chapter of Lamentations. We have a disturbing image of a woman, of a mother, lying in the rubble in the midst of destruction. It's the picture of a woman reviewing her life, second-guessing every decision she's ever made. This is the picture of ancient Jerusalem, a rebellious Jerusalem, and she's asking herself, how did this happen to me? To lament means to grieve, to mourn deeply, to regret. And scholars tell us that Jeremiah is the author of the Book of Lamentations. He's also called the weeping prophet. Why? Well, there's several reasons. But one in particular is that God told Jeremiah to tell his people that he was done, that he had had it. You see, the people had strayed so far away from God. And what did this look like? It looked like idol worship. It looked like them following the ways of their culture and their world. And it looked like self-reliance. And Jeremiah was obedient, and he told the people that Jerusalem would ultimately be destroyed. But before that time came, that the Babylonians would come not once but twice and take their people away in 2 exiles, take them back to Babylon. So Jeremiah really wasn't winning friends and influencing people. Anybody want to apply for that job? Jeremiah's career spanned over 40 years, and during that time, 5 kings reigned. The first king, Josiah, reigned 31 years of that time, but the other 4 kings combined reigned in a span of 4 years. So for the people of Jeremiah's time, it was a time of chaos and confusion, even lawlessness. There was rampant individualism, every man for himself. It was a dysfunctional society, and political and religious corruption ruled the day. In fact, in studying for the message, I found that the priests were much more concerned about obtaining personal wealth and personal power than they were staying in tune with God and delivering the message to the people that God wanted them to hear. So the priests really were tickling the ears of the people and telling them exactly what they wanted to hear. People were tolerating adultery, murder, prostitution, bad stuff, right? But there was another offense. The wealthy were prospering at the expense of the weak, of the poor, of those with no voice. And all through the Old Testament, really the Bible, but particularly the Old Testament, we're reminded again and again that God is the advocate for those with no voice. So the people had become desensitized over time. How? Well, number one, by accepting the ways of their world. But then number two, by they themselves participating in the immoral practices of their culture. In fact, everyday people were practicing prostitution on hills to appease a god. And even worse, others were participating in child sacrifice, which we know was an abomination to the Lord. So perversion, social decay, and a god for every circumstance. Made of wood, made of stone, silver, gold. The people had embraced false hope and powerless, empty symbols to help them cope with life. They had stuffed these things into the place reserved for the sacred, because that's really what an idol is in Jeremiah's time or in any time. In fact, Jeremiah said, "But they put their detestable things in the house which is called by my name to defile it." That's right. The people were essentially using the temple of God as their personal curio cabinet to display their collection of idols. The situation that we find in Lamentations in the first chapter is in stark contrast to what we see earlier in Jeremiah 2, where God says, "I remember the devotion of your youth, how as a bride you loved me and followed me through the desert." So it's apparent that the covenant between God and the Hebrew people had lost its sparkle, had lost its significance. The people had lost their way. And really, for them to believe in everything was really to believe in nothing. In Jeremiah 7, 5 through 7, God set the standard. "For if you really change your ways and your actions and deal with each other justly, if you do not oppress the alien, the fatherless, or the widow, and do not shed innocent blood in this place, and if you do not follow other gods to your own harm, then I will let you live in this place, in the land I gave your forefathers forever and ever." It seems pretty clear, but they didn't. Wonder why? As I prepared this message, I found myself lingering here over and over, and I was careful not to point a finger too fast, that I thought I probably needed to examine my own life and my own culture. And a couple of weeks ago even, my husband and I were flying out of Nashville on an early flight. And so we got on Expedia to find a hotel that offered free parking and shuttled you to. And we picked this hotel. We'd never been there before. And when we got inside, it looked like a great hotel room with a chocolate on my pillow. That was great. But I also had this It was a spiritual menu on my pillow. And all I had to do was press a button, and they would meet my spiritual needs. If I wanted it, they would bring me, and Chad told me how to say this. I don't know how to say it. The Mugavad Gitu. I could have the Book of Mormon. If I wanted the Four Noble Truths, the Quran, the Tai Te Ching, and even books on Scientology. And I began to think, you know, I really believe as a counselor that people are people in any time frame. For instance, what if my government changed every 4 years? Just saying.